Hello students, I welcome you all for today's session. Now let's begin today's class. In today's class we will talk about the third chapter of history, that is ruling the countryside. This is the second part of this chapter. Let's begin with the topic, that is crops for Europe. By the late 18th century, the company was trying to expand the cultivation of opium and indigo, which was highly demanded in Europe. The Britishers forced cultivators to produce jute, tea, sugarcane, wheat, cotton and rice in various parts of India. Indigo was highly demanded in Europe. To get the indigo cultivation, the Thin-Cartier system was introduced. Under this system, peasants had to cultivate indigo on 3/20th part of their land. Because of the production of the cash crops and indigo, which has to be grown on the most fertile land, the farmers were left with little fertile region to grow. These crops reduced the production of food crops. Now we have here another topic. Does color have a history? If you look at our textbook, there are two figures given, figure 5 and 6. And in that there are two images of cotton prints. On the down you can look at here, there are two images given on this picture. The image on the left shown a kalamkari print created by weavers of Andhra Pradesh in India. On the right is a floral cotton print designed and produced by William Morris, a famous poet and artist of 19th century Britain. There is one thing common in the two prints. Both use a rich blue color, commonly called indigo. Do you know how this color was produced? The blue that you see in these prints was produced from a plant called indigo. It is likely that the blue dye used in the Morris print in 19th century Britain was manufactured from indigo plants cultivated in India. For India was the biggest supplier of indigo in the world at that time. Now let's move on to the next topic, that is why the demand for Indian indigo. By the 13th century, Indian indigo was being used by cloth manufacturers in Italy, France and Britain to dye cloth. Indigo produced a rich blue color, whereas the dye from wood, another plant, was pale and dull. Indigo plantations came up in many parts of North America and Mexico, but during the wars in these regions and abolition of slavery in French colonies, British started depending on India for the cultivation expansion of indigo. Increased demand of indigo also came because of the heavy industrialization in Britain. To fulfill the demand of indigo, British used their colonies in tropical regions and mainly in Africa and India, as the availability of land and cheap labor were available. One interesting fact about wheat and indigo is that the wheat cultivators were so worried about the tough competition they were facing because of indigo that they pressurized their respective governments to ban the import of indigo. Not only English, but the French in Caribbean island, the Portuguese in Brazil, the Spanish in Venezuela also started cultivating indigo plants. While the demand for indigo was increasing, its supply fell to half between 1783 and 1789 due to various reasons. As there was less supply, the British dyers became keener to procure indigo, and at this point they turned to India to meet their needs. Now let us talk about Britain turns to India. The demand for indigo was rising day by day in Europe. Therefore, the company decided to expand indigo cultivation in India. Bengal was the largest exporter of indigo to the Britain. In 1810, about 95% of the indigo imported by Britain was from Bengal. As the indigo trade grew, many of the commercial agents and company officials started investing in the indigo business. As this was a profitable business, many Englishmen settled in India and became indigo planters. Even loans were granted by the company and the banks for indigo cultivation. Now let's see how indigo was cultivated. Basically, indigo was cultivated under two systems. They were as follows. First is niche system and second is Royalty system. Niche system. In this system, the planters produce indigo on the land which was under his control. Either he was the owner or he had rented it for indigo cultivation. But the niche cultivators found it difficult to grow indigo as it required a large fertile area which was not easily available as most of the land was densely populated. Even laborers were not available sometimes as they were busy with rice cultivation. Thus, they were not interested in growing indigo anymore. Second, let us talk about royalty system. Under this system, the planters entered into contract with Ryots or village headman, sometimes forcibly. According to the contract, 25% of the land was exclusively kept for the cultivation of indigo, and loans were provided for its cultivation. The planters used to provide the seeds and drill to the farmer, and he in turn had to take care of the plants. But soon the Ryots realized that this system was not an easy one, because they got trapped in the cycle of loans, which was unending, and the income they received through indigo plantation was also very less. So these two systems face various problems as they had done cultivation for indigo. The problem with niche cultivation already we have seen. Let us look at a few points. This cultivation needed fertile and big lands, and it was difficult to get big areas as they were already highly populated. For this, they had to evict population, which led to conflicts. Niche cultivation was on a large scale required. Many plows and bullocks. Investing on purchase and maintenance of plows was a big problem. At the same time of its cultivation, the cultivation of rice also took place. That is why plows were not available on rent too. Availability of labor was also a problem, as peasants were engaged in rice cultivation at the same time. Indigo on the land of Ryots. They also faced a problem in the royalty system. In royalty system, the planters forced the Ryots to sign a contract, an agreement. Those who signed the contract got cash advances from planters at low rates of interest to produce indigo. The peasants got very low price for the indigo they produced, and the cycle of loans never ended. After an indigo harvest, the land could not be sown with rice, which the peasants preferred, as indigo production reduced the fertility of land. Thus, the land became unfit for the growth of rice after the cultivation of indigo. As the system of indigo plantation was very oppressive, all the peasants became rebellious, and they spoke against the cultivation of indigo. As the result, there arose the Blue Rebellion, and after let's see what it is. In March 1859, a rebellion broke in Bengal. Many of the Ryots refused to pay rents to the planters. Not only this, they attacked indigo factories. At some places, the village headmen, who were forced to enter into a contract by the planters, also supported this rebellion. Peasants at some places thought that they would get support from the Britishers, but it was not so, as the Britishers became cautious after the revolt of 1857. So they brought military for safeguarding planters in the indigo districts. Queen Victoria ordered magistrates of Barasat Ashley Eden to issue a notice stating that Lloyds would not be forced to enter into Indigo contracts. An Indigo commission was set up to look into the matter. The commission came up with the following conclusion. Planters were found guilty. Planters were forcing Lloyds to enter into contracts. Indigo cultivation was not profitable for Lloyds. The Lloyds were asked to fulfill the existing contracts, but they got the right to refuse for indigo cultivation in future. After the revolt, indigo production collapsed in Bengal, but the planters now shifted their operation to Bihar with the discovery of synthetic dyes. In the late 19th century, their business was severely affected, but yet they managed to expand production. When Mahatma Gandhi returned from South Africa, a peasant from Bihar persuaded him to visit Champaran and see the plight of the indigo cultivators there. Mahatma Gandhi's visit in 1917 marked the beginning of the Champaran movement against the indigo planters. Dear students, thus we have completed chapter 3. I hope you have understood some of the important point of this chapter. So let us close up here. We will meet again in the next session. Thank you all.